Hello, and welcome to another episode of Poetry FM 101. This is my favorite corner in the world, and now it can be yours too. I'm your host, Nitin George, and this is Poetry FM 101, your weekly dose of poetry. So get ready to have your heartstrings plucked by the sweet melody of words, dance to the rhythm of rhymes, and swim in the sweet symphony of sonnets. And so, let's dive into poetry and ensure that you have a poetic day ahead. Hey everyone, happy Monday, and I hope you guys are having an amazing start to your day and your week. If you've got the Monday blues, let me know what you do to beat it. And for those of you on their way to work, I hope you beat the traffic. But if you are caught in the gnarly midst of it, then you're tuned in to the right station. I know Monday morning traffic can be crazy. I've got to travel 25 kilometers to work one way. And the only way I can beat that traffic is to start early, like really early. And on the way back though, well, there's no way out. It's a long and arduous drive. But that's a story for another time. So guys, this will be the last episode of season 1, and it's been a truly wonderful journey. When I started Poetry FM 101 back in August, I really had no idea how this would turn out. I didn't even have a long-term plan or how this would evolve, but as I stepped into it, things took their own course and the clarity came on its own. So, as we conclude season 1, I want to thank each and every one of my 48 followers who've supported me, took the time to listen to my episodes and answer the polls. My sister Nissi, who's been a huge supporter and cheerleader, my fellow podcasters Saurabh, Shweta Acharya, Radhika, Piyush, Kapil, and my friends Ria, Cheryl, Shoman. You've all contributed to the journey so far and given me feedback on what can be improved, and I can't attach a value to that. It's invaluable. So, season 1 may be drawing the curtains with this episode, but as they say, the show must go on. And so, I'll be back with season 2, and this time it won't be about my poetry or me reciting the poems. Season 2 is going to be featuring conversations with poets from all walks of life and from all around the world. Yes, you heard that right. I will be in face-to-face conversation with some amazing poets. So sit back, relax, and stay tuned. And if you've enjoyed the episodes so far, make sure you follow and like my podcast. And it would mean the world to me if you would take 3 minutes of your time to go and rate my podcast on podchaser.com. I'll leave a link in the description below. I would really appreciate it, and thank you so much. Now, unlike the usual flow of my episodes, we are not going to have a rhyme for today. Instead, we will do a bonus content. I will tell you about my story, my journey into the world of poetry, how I started writing poetry, and how I got here, talking to you through my podcast. Once upon a time, long ago. I'm just kidding, guys. Well, my association with poetry started long before I wrote my first poem. Growing up, I was never much good at sports. I preferred the company of books over the basketball court or the football court. It was well into my teens before I finally became good in track and field. So this gave me a lot of time to fall in love with books, fall in love with words. I remember reading the classics like Heidi, Tom Sawyer, Treasure Island, Black Beauty over and over. And with poetry, well, it started off as this inexplicable essence that could capture through words, but went beyond what words could convey. And then somewhere in my 4th grade, I wrote my first poem. If you've listened to episode 4, I think, in that episode, I recite the very first poem that I wrote over there. So go check it out if you haven't already. And then as time progressed, I ended up writing more poems. But I've always been what you'd call a closet poet. Poetry was personal and intimate, and sharing it with the world, well, it didn't seem quite right. Perhaps I told myself I was being humble. Then something happened early this year. I published my first collection of poetry, and it's titled For Crying Out Rhymes, Confessions Untold. You can find it on Amazon and on Flipkart. And the feedback I got on that book was beyond what I'd imagined. And then a dear friend and a mentor told me something that really hit home. He said, "You've got something special, the ability to impact others through your words, and keeping that to yourself under the pretext of being humble, that's injustice to yourself and also to others." You know, we often judge and evaluate ourselves using the wrong metrics. We're more afraid of avoiding the naysayers and negative talkers than we are interested in connecting with the people who need what we have to offer. So your metric should not be on the 99 people who don't value what you have to offer, or the 99 people who might make a negative remark about what you have to offer. But your metric should be focused on that one person who needs to connect with you. That one person is your success metric. But you see, you can only achieve that success if you're willing to be overlooked and ridiculed by the 99. So in trying to avoid the 99, you're also avoiding the one. And whatever success you think you're getting by avoiding the 99 naysayers, that isn't success at all, if you know what I mean. It's just a figment of your imagination, something that your brain cooks up to feel safe. Think of it as a mental block of sorts. And it took me a while to overcome this mental block. Publishing my first collection of poems was a step in that direction. And that is how and why I started this podcast. You see, it's my hope and dream that I can bring poetry to the masses. I can democratize poetry, not as this exclusive elite form of art, but as the authentic voice that is a part of you and that is you. Don't get me wrong, the idea is not to motivate everyone to become a poet or start writing poetry to bring their authentic voice out. No, it's not about poetry, but it's about something bigger and deeper. It's about looking within yourself and finding yourself. The self that you've hidden away under layers of conditioning, false beliefs, insecurities, failures, and fears. There is a self, the true you, that is hidden in there somewhere. The self is craving to come out and live to its full potential. That's the authentic you, not the sum of all your fears and experiences. And that is what I'm hoping to achieve through my podcast. That's my why. And that is my story. Thank you all for tuning into this week's episode. And as I mentioned before, this is going to be the last episode of season 1. But we will be back again with season 2, and that's going to be a bang. We're going to bring in a lot of poets with whom I'm going to have personal conversations about their vision and their take on poetry and how they started writing poetry. So stay tuned. Make sure you hit that follow button. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and give this podcast a rating on podchaser.com. I will leave a link in the description below, and I truly appreciate that. So until I see you again in season 2, take care and have a wonderful day and week ahead.